Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, we've been saying it for years, and they've been calling us conspiracy theorists for years. We've been saying that this whole thing wasn't organic. You couldn't just chalk it up to Democrat mismanagement, and really not just Democrats, but liberals across the Western world. It wasn't just simple left-wing incompetence. Oops, we just accidentally let 15 million people into the country. What can I say? I guess it's refugee season. Even though there's no significant wars going on, that would justify the sheer number of influx of credible refugees. The whole thing was deliberate, it was orchestrated and well-funded. The chaos at the southern border, the erosion of national identity, and of course tied in with the lawfare tying the hands of ICE agents and Border Patrol. It's not just happening by chance. This is an orchestrated, globalist invasion, being ran at the top by the big globalist billionaires, and the foot soldiers, of course, orchestrating it all, are the leftist NGOs that they fund. Well, we've been saying it forever, it's been a conspiracy theory, but now it seems as though we've got receipts because the Hungarian Prime Minister, Viktor Orban, just laid the whole thing out. He just dropped a bombshell 2015 document that allegedly details George Soros' plans to, quote, flood the EU with 1 million asylum seekers annually. 1 million every year. Talk about unsustainable. It's a plan written, published, and now publicly known. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here and of course why it matters. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so just take a look at this video.
I do remember how Mr. George Soros published his plan in English in a Project Syndicate publication. It was done 2015, September 26. He said that I'm quoting, here are the 6 components of my comprehensive plan. First is, he said very clearly, 2015, that, quoting again, EU has to accept at least 1 million asylum seekers annually. Second, he said, adequate financing is critical. And he proposed to issue long-term euro bonds for financing the migration crisis and the migrants' social and welfare taking care when they arrive to the European Union. And another point which is very important for Hungary, which is involving the territory of Hungary directly into this program, he said safe channels must be established for asylum seekers, starting with getting them from Greece and Italy to their destination countries, which means to bring them to Greece, to Hungary, and then have them to go to Austria. So don't forget that what we are speaking about is not a bulk of 10 years of accidental story. It's a plan which is going on. It was written, it was published, it's known. So we are fighting again an organized gang called Empire of George Soros, and NGOs, who are just supporting everybody who is transgressing our legal system and our regulation, and financing illegal activity against our nation. So this is why the story is not just about migration, but it's about how this European Union is working and how George Soros was able to captive the main positions inside many institutions of European Union, buying out MPs and other leaders in order to execute the plan which is written, and it's against all the Christian and nation-based political forces. It's against us.
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban is saying it plainly. It was a deliberate plan, not just a fringe theory that's popping up on obscure messaging boards and in the dark corners of social media. No, there's a paper trail. This was never about helping refugees. It was about flooding sovereign nations with unvetted migrants to fundamentally alter the West, to undermine national identity, and of course, import mass cheap labor for the big multinational corporations. And obviously, the plan that affected the EU the way it did is the same thing we're seeing at the southern border. It's the same Soros-funded NGO playbook, the same fake humanitarian branding, all put in place to mask the full-blown invasion of a nation. And the worst part of it all is the position that we've now been put in. What it seems the intent was to take advantage of our generous nature in the West and our history of constitutional rights and human rights charters. Western immigration systems and right to due process is essentially being taken advantage. The system is being exploited, and we're now told that your only option to undo all the damage that was thrusted upon your nation now is to spend billions of dollars deporting people one at a time, spending tens of thousands of dollars per migrant. All the while, for a good chunk there, for a good 4 years under Joe Biden, thousands upon thousands were entering illegally on a daily basis. And that's just what we know of. Clearly the system, the Constitution, is being taken advantage of. of. And it's really got me thinking of this position that we're now in, a position that it seems the nation was deliberately put in. The founders built a system that was based on a moral framework of honesty and shared value. I don't think they ever envisioned a scenario where the system itself would be weaponized by globalist billionaires and activist judges hell-bent on destroying American sovereignty. You know, the purpose of birthright citizenship was not to allow for immigration loopholes where illegals can come in, have an anchor baby, and then try to stay and settle in the nation indefinitely. Constitutional rights to due process probably didn't envision tens of millions of illegals simply invading the country illegally, and then the federal government put in a position where they'd have to spend billions of dollars to now undo the damage that was thrusted upon them. But now apparently that's the expectation, thanks to another element of this Soros plan, taking such incredible control of the judiciary. As we know, the Soros judge, the Soros prosecutor, the Soros DA, the Soros politician, these sanctuary city clowns, who make it seem as if they're just protecting vulnerable people and protecting people's rights, but in reality, it's clearly part of an orchestrated plot. And that's my message to people who are falling for the emotional crap. If you really think that this is a refugee crisis, people fleeing prosecution and direct threats of violence, you need to wake the hell up. This is orchestrated and it's multifaceted. Your naive compassion and the broken American immigration system is being taken advantage of. You are being taken advantage of, and it's not just the Soros-style globalists. It's also adversarial foreign nations.
You may have seen recently an FBI assessment that was unclassified that said that the Maduro regime is using and planning to use trained Nicaragua terrorists to carry out assassination plots on American soil. Now, very few in this room covered that. I'll let you all ask yourselves why you didn't cover it and why your editors didn't assign that story to you, something I think you should think about on your own. But this is a earth-shattering piece of news. The Biden administration imported the terrorist army that our own FBI assesses is planning assassination strikes on American soil against critics of the Maduro regime. Those are the terrorists that President Trump is finding and apprehending that our Democrat judges and Democrat activists are trying to keep on U.S. soil. Trained Nicaragua has the same legal status as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. MS-13 has the same legal status as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. These are foreign terrorists operating on our soil. And our gratitude to El Salvador for agreeing to take custody of these terrorists is immense.
The FBI is now confirming that Venezuela's Maduro regime is training TDA terrorists to carry out assassinations on U.S. soil. You know, Donald Trump is not playing around when he claims that Venezuela emptied out their prisons to send their violent offenders to your neighborhood. It's happening by design. I mean, look what's happening in New York City right now. NYPD officers attacked in Times Square by teen members of Tren de Aragua gang offshoot, NYC officials say. And this comes after story of TDA violence in New York City and other cities. We spent a lot of time talking about the migrant shelters in New York City. Well, did you know that many of those migrant centers had actually been taken over by gangs like TDA? They're setting up their criminal networks and terror cells on American soil. And now the Trump administration and ICE are trying to do something about it. And guess what? The paid-off Soros politicians, instead of working with them, are trying to get in their way.
These people are in the country illegally, and the first thing the police commissioner did up there is she's ordered an internal affairs investigation on it. Did someone call ICE? Because we happen to be at the precinct where some of these people were being processed by happenstance, but all of a sudden now there's an internal affairs investigation. Who called ICE? These people are illegal in the country. We just proved to the commissioner, we proved to the city council that wants to lock us out of Rikers Island, that working with Mayor Adams, we just got done 2 weeks ago, indicted 27 members of TDA through a RICO investigation. 21 are currently in custody, looking for 6. We took 27 TDA off the street. ICE with the cooperation of NYPD. We showed what our partnership can do. And they're already pulling back now. Because the commissioner is more concerned about who called ICE than working with ICE to get these people not off the street, out of the country. And like I say, the city council, the same day, we're up there bragging about 27 TDA taken off the street, making New York safer. They sued Mayor Adams to keep us out of Rikers Island. This is just another example of sanctuary cities not cooperating with ICE, and look what happened. NYPD officers are attacked. If you're brazen enough to attack an armed law enforcement officer, you're much more dangerous to an unarmed civilian.
You have TDA gang members committing violent crimes in broad daylight, and leftist prosecutors are launching internal investigations to stop the deportations. So yeah, people want to talk about due process, and look, I'm one for due process. I understand the reason why it's so important and why it must be protected, but at the same time, you have to admit that we are in extraordinary times. These people were allowed to walk into the country without any process, no screening, no paperwork, no vetting. And now once inside, the left is demanding full constitutional protections. Billions of dollars in court resources, lawyers, translators. I mean, the burden would be incredible. Essentially, the standard is people can break into the country willy-nilly, and then the feds can't touch them without jumping through 5 years of legal hoops. It's absolute insanity, and we need a streamlined, wartime-level immigration process. Congress needs to act. The Supreme Court needs to weigh in, because clearly this is no longer a migration issue. This is a crisis. It is an emergency. It's a crisis of national sovereignty and security. And that's why Donald Trump is 100% justified in his declaration of an emergency. His use of the Alien Enemies Act, absolutely. But now I think it's time to take the conversation one step forward, because clearly extraordinary times require extraordinary responses. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.